Good morning, everybody. This will be a rather quick session. It really makes a big difference if I sort of advertise the event the day before. Sometimes I'll write on Twitter that we're having this, and then I'll put an alert on Discord. And we always get a lot more people that show up when I do that. So I think just having that reminder helps. This is an in-between week, so I'm just going to go through a couple of things quickly, and let's get the chat open. Hi, all. Morning. Hello. Let's see. So last week, I added a mechanism here to install DLCs. You don't have a DLC yet because they don't exist, but I do. Install. And it copies the files into the project. And now I have the new files from the DLC. So that's how that will work. It will just be built into the same system where you have like ambient CG. I also have a Sketchfab plugin kind of working. So it's all in one place under this tab here. I also did some work on, let's see, implementation of Steam Workshop. I'll show you. I've just got a couple of screenshots of that. There. Now my first time around doing this, there was the original. So Steam Workshop, it started. I was one of the first people who started using it, and they had one system, and then they switched it out for a completely different system. And so, like, half the items in the Leadworks Steam Workshop are using the legacy system. So it's a little bit complicated, and I think the old legacy items don't work so well. The way I've got it working now, it seems to be a lot more reliable. I'm just pursuing like multiple avenues to store this content, and I'm not sure what the best way to do this yet is. So I'm just doing this like several ways. One way is to tap straight into these web APIs like Ambient CG and Sketchfab and Polyhaven. That's one method. Another method is using Steam Workshop. Another method is our own system on the website. I've activated this. If you go to, there's no links to it, but if you go to ultraengine.com/community/files, there is a working system here to upload content. And this is mostly just for experimentation right now. But there's also a web API for this. Let's see. Envision Power Web API. I'll show you how this works because it's actually very cool. This is how the license management system for the standalone version of Ultra works. Downloads, files. You have these endpoints, and these are just URLs that you type in. And you can specify all these categories, and then you get, let's see, response, is there, well, it's complicated, but you basically type in a URL with a bunch of arguments, and then the response is, it just generates a JSON file with a bunch of data. And so that's how we can retrieve information for a file. So, for example, this endpoint is, I think it's to view information about a specific file. So you get the ID number, there's the title, the category it's in, the author, and that's an object. So that just has like their name and all kinds of information about them. Description of the item, primary screenshot, file object. What is that? Let's look that up. name, URL. Okay, so that gives you the screenshot, the URL to where the screenshot is stored. So that would give you like the URL to this. Let's see where that is. Open a new tab. So that would retrieve this URL. And so that's how we're able to retrieve this information. They all pretty much work like that. Of course, when you're downloading remote files, you want to do that asynchronously, which is why there's a delay here when these show up. And that's good because the alternative would be to have the program just freeze if it was waiting for that download to finish. So it's good having them load in asynchronously like a website does it. So we do have our own system for that. We've had that for a very long time. I just haven't really made use of it because, again, it's the system itself isn't such a challenge. It's more a challenge of filling it up with good content. But now we seem to have the situation is quite different today. We have a lot of good content available. For some reason, I don't know why. But there's a lot of Creative Commons 3D models out there that are that can be used freely as long as you give attribution. I think artists are just they're just using it as advertising, and then that brings them work because people look at their models and say, "Hey, this is really great." So, and it's there's a lot of variation in the quality that you can get. So if I look for sci-fi rifles on Sketchfab, I want it to be downloadable, and I want the only licenses I'm interested in are CC BY, which is attribution, CC BY SA, which share alike. That just means that if you make a derivative item, then your derivative item has to also be under the same license. Okay, let's sort these by most liked. Really? I thought there was a lot more than that. I might have typed something in wrong. Oh, this week I want... No, that's all time. Okay, I'm doing something wrong because I was getting a lot more... I was getting a lot more results previously. I don't know. Before I was searching and I found a ton of sci-fi rifles that were all under the favorable licenses.
It was in Discord, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to look through it right now. But anyways, my point is you can find sci-fi rifles and they're quite good. There's quite a lot. Like you have enough to actually make a game with this stuff. Oh, that looks great. You can make a game with these. But if you're but some other stuff you look for, like I was also looking for like train cars, like a complete set of train cars, and I couldn't really find I wasn't able to really find a lot of stuff. So I suggest, like, when you're thinking about your games, I suggest start with the content, start with the media that you can get access to, whether it's free or paid, and let that determine what style you're going to make, because that's really the biggest challenge. There's another site called, I think it's called Poly Pizza, I found. And it's all cartoon style stuff, but there's a ton of stuff, and it's all actually like quite good quality for the style. You know, if you need that cartoon style, and because it's this simple style, everything works together really well. So I found like some skeleton characters. Oh yeah. this thing has like, yeah, these have like so many. These have a ton of animations. There's really no wow. There's no shortage of animations with these. So if you're okay with doing like a cartoon style, then definitely check out this website, because I mean, this has everything you need for that style, and you're not going to have problems with consistency because there's barely any textures used.
If we talk about cartoon style, I think at the moment there's also on Humble Bundle you can get a low poly pack. It's only 2 days available.
Do you know what it's called?
It's not. I link it. It's not complete free, but it's I think $20, and you get a huge amount of assets.
Okay,
check basically every time I check Humble Bundle, and I got really good in this channel here. They have
low poly game dev bundle, $25 for 36 items. Yeah, and the stuff that is actually quite nice about the low poly stuff is it tends to, you don't have all the problems of consistency because it's mostly just colors, and then you let the lighting kind of handle all the detail for you. Is this like cartoon style, or is this like just low poly? Can mean a lot of things, you know.
It's cartoon style. I think it's mixed, but the most part of it is in cartoon style.
Okay. Oh yeah, that is. Yeah, so you might actually want to. That might be a consideration if you're having trouble coming up with a cohesive visual style. If you're having trouble finding models that look right together, then you might consider just going with a stylized look like this, and then just kind of tint your lighting a little bit to make things look cohesive. But that's one possible solution. I also got let's see, game art. We've made progress with the view model with Andy's help. This is finally working, and it looks awesome. So the way we did this is Unwrap 3D as a 3ds Max exporter. The FBX files for this were not good. They didn't load in anything. But I got the original 3ds Max files, and when it was exported from 3ds Max through the Unwrap 3D plugin, then I got it into Unwrap 3D, and Unwrap 3D is a very cool program that everybody should have. Unwrap3d.com. It's a UV mapping program primarily, but it handles. So it's a UV mapping program, but it does so much more than that. I don't use it for UV mapping at all. It supports a lot of file formats. A lot. GLTF is on there, of course. FBX. Oh, wow. It supports my old cartography shop file format. Import and export. I wrote that format and I don't even know it anymore. Leadworks engine, GMF and model. It exports these files. Okay. Well, the GMF and model file format, they're actually the same format with just named differently. And this model format This is the same thing that we're currently using. Just I have a new version, but it Ultra will detect these the old version. It will detect and load those, and that was how I got this from 3D Studio Max into Ultra, and it actually works perfectly. The animations are all stored in separate files, and I was able to go up here to File and then Load Animation, and it works perfectly. The animations are coming through perfectly now. So this is the view model that we're going to use for our, well, one of them that we're going to use for our X-Form game, and very glad how that finally turned out, because that was a lot of trouble, and a lot of people put a lot of effort into finally getting this to work. So let's see, I think we're at, today's like the 14th or the 15th? Today's the 15th, I think. And I'm looking at around the 27th will be when I think that will be when Ultra 0.9.6 drops. And I'm planning on one DLC that's just like a basic nature starter kit for that. I'm also talking to some artists. I contacted a few people, and a few people are interested in selling DLCs on Steam. And what I'm offering right now is the artist, I'll create the DLC. I will convert their models into our format and get them ready to use with Ultra. And then I will transfer the DLC ownership of that to their Steam account. At that point, they take over the selling. They can set the sales however they want. They can set the price however they want. They get all of the revenue after Valve takes their cut. So at that point, they're just doing business directly with Valve, and I just want them, and that way they get the most money possible. In the past, our DLC sales have actually been quite good. From the sound of it, I think some of these people are going to make more money selling a DLC for Ultra than they actually would in the Unity Asset Store, from what they're telling me. And I just want you guys to have a lot of high quality content that's ready to use. You know, some things, it's strange. Like, some things are easy to find. If I go on sketchfab.com, if I want an axe, I can find an axe. I can find a Viking axe. I can find, okay, let's make it downloadable. Let's make sure we have commercial usage allowed. Yeah, you've still got a lot of choices. That looks like a good modern one. Let's take a look. 5,000 triangles, that's not bad. And if you don't like this one, there's probably 100 more. You've got a lot of choices for that. Some other stuff you just can't find. Animated characters are hard to find. View models like this you will not find. Let's try it. Actually, no, you will find some. They won't be free, but you will find some. View models, FPS, FOPS. Okay, nothing there. FPS hands. Okay, we did see this guy's work. I think it's the same person we were looking at. Yeah, Cranch. These are actually pretty good. Yeah, that actually looks quite nice.
Yeah, they are some good, but you need to invest work to bring them to work correctly.
Yeah, they tend to, it seems like, it does seem like if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. even with GLTF, even with FBX, it seems like there's always some weird problem. I don't know why, but GLTF is the best thing we've got, and it's still not perfect. So our pipeline here was to go from 3ds Max to Ultra through using Unwrap 3D, which that was really. This is such a great program. They've got better support for all these file formats than anybody. How much does it cost? I don't think it's very expensive. Yeah, $60 for the best. This is the best 3D model converter in the world. I actually think he should take this technology and just turn it into like a. If you guys remember, like a 3D Exploration, that program, it became Deep Exploration. That's what he should do with it and put it on Steam. But this is a fantastic program you might want to consider getting. So that's all I've got for this week. I need to get back to work. We'll have I think next week we'll probably have a more, or the week after we'll have a more formal, like structured presentation. But this week it's just an in-between period. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
Only the animation callbacks.
Yeah, I know. You and Spider-Pig actually are both asking about that.
It's a bit tricky to make a proper reload animation when you have no information when the animation is ended, so you need to make it on a fixed time, and then it cancels within the animation. Yeah,
I think we can probably get that in before zero. We can. That's probably like the last feature I can pack into 0.96. I've actually been doing a lot of work with the animation system lately. The update that went out yesterday, it actually fixes like some of the exported legacy model formats files exported from Unwrap 3D, because basically Unwrap 3D was exporting multiple top level bones, and it's not supposed to be that way, because even though it's not very well, there's no specification for the file format. But what I did is I inserted an extra top level bone, and that makes sure that everything is under one single root. That's the update that went out yesterday. And after I did that, then all of these models started loading perfectly. It's so reliable. It's so wonderful. I think there's one improvement I can make to GLTF model loading to make it more reliable, because there are some GLTF files that won't load. Basically, if GLTF files can optionally include something called inverse bind matrices, and these are the worst thing that ever happened. This is a very common cause of problems for people who are loading the GLTF format. Inverse bind matrices are basically, it tells you the orientation an object was at the time the vertices were weighted to the bones, but it's no longer in that orientation. So in other words, the model isn't in the vertices aren't in the right position relative to the bones to begin with. The inverse bind matrices tell you what they should be, what they should have been, but it's impossible to visualize. It's very complicated, and it's actually a pretty common thing. Let's see. I came across a lot of posts. Let's see. Corrupt bind poses is another. Bind poses is another term you might have. You might come across. A bind pose is a reference pose that defines the initial position and orientation of a character skeleton in a 3D model. Corrupt bind poses poses can occur when the bind pose becomes damaged or lost, causing issues with character animation and skinning. Not just in GLTF, this is like a common problem, and it's really stupid to be doing this. It's very, very stupid to use, I mean, the initial orientation of the object, that should define where its vertices are relative to the bones. If you don't do that, then you're just asking for trouble. And not only does this cause problems in GLTF, it looks like it causes a lot of problems in other programs like Maya, FBX. It's stupid, needless complication, and yeah, if you like, I'm very, very critical of Khronos for including this feature because it's a bad idea. Anyways, have I made my feelings clear on that? So, if inverse bind matrices are included in a GLTF model, and if the root node's orientation has any rotation, then there seems to be problems with that. And it's very difficult to solve that because our GLTF loading code is about 3,000 lines of code almost. And part of the loading process is it takes all the nodes and it collapses it into one top level node. So currently I'm actually looking for a program that like a little utility that will pre-apply the inverse bind matrices and collapse everything. There's something called GLTF transform. By somebody called, Don McCurdy. This guy's name sounds very familiar. I know him from somewhere. Let's see, what does he do? DonMcCurdy.com. Who are you, Don? I've seen his name before. I don't know.
He is working on Blue Sky, maybe, when it was working on Twitter.
Really?
Or something like this. I think I heard this name.
That's strange. He seems like a graphics guy. But he has a program called GLTF Transform. It might do this kind of thing. It does collapsing. So I asked him, actually. Maybe he'll have a response this weekend. That's one option. But for the most part, like our GLTF loader is almost perfect, and I hope to get it absolutely perfect. I've actually been running a ton of Sketchfab models through it, and it almost always works. There's just one situation where it doesn't work, and for those situations, we do have Unwrap 3D's export capabilities are very excellent. So that's kind of the fallback.
I think one big thing would be to have Mixamo working correctly, because
that's an example. Yes, that's an example of what I'm talking about. Those are some of the models that don't work.
Because I think there's no other source for 3D characters with animations.
Yeah, I agree. Any plans for particle emitter? Yes, there are plans for particle emitters. Those will be in. Those will come in before version 1.0. There was kind of a cool video I posted about. Let's see. If I can find it. I hope there's a dedicated particle editor in Ultra this time. There was a particle editor in LeadWorks. I think he means he wants it in a separate window. Good luck finding anything on Discord. I would like to show you some a video of some physics. Oh yeah, here it is. This is kind of cool. This looks like a fire hose. All this is doing, it's just using running particles on a separate thread and interacting, basic interaction with physics objects. But that's very cool. And then here's another one. This is more like smoke.
Is Newton supporting GPU? Yeah, calculated physics?
No, you don't really need it, in my opinion. Physics is, I mean...
I know that the bullet physics library can do this, so I was interested in maybe you can also do this with Newton.
Yeah, Bullet does. I'm not convinced that physics on the GPU is that great of an idea. Because, I mean, one, it lowers your frame rate because you're allocating more processing power for physics. And two, physics is it's not a very parallel process. Like, there's a lot of, you can't just separate all of these, all your physics objects into a separate thread for each object like you do with graphics, because they interact by definition, like all the collisions and stacking, all the objects interact with each other. I think this is one of the reasons why PhysX, NVIDIA PhysX, the collisions tend to be pretty bad. Whenever you see particles on like particle demonstrations on the GPU, they're usually just like in a fixed box that's like defined by code, or there's like one model that they carefully set up to have a collision. It's not just like physics that, where you can just easily collide with everything in the world. It's like a very handcrafted kind of like fake demo, basically. CPU physics, like on a separate thread, using as many threads as you need, I think is a far more versatile solution. And usually everybody who does GPU physics, they usually also have an option. They also have like some stuff that runs on the CPU because they have to do both, because the GPU physics can't really cut it. That's kind of my outlook on particle physics.
But the smoke looks great.
It's fast enough that I think we can just enable collision by default on all particles. I have not gotten into particle to particle collisions. So like water would not have any cohesion or repulsion. But that's an area in the future that I am interested in.
Oh, but for example, if you have a fire in a house, for example, then you have maybe only smoke in one room where the fire is present, and this would be really cool.
I think we can do that by default. Yeah, I think that should be not a problem.
Be maybe also cool for our demo project.
Yeah, actually, like we can have like fire and then smoke where it, like, when it hits the ceiling, it sort of spreads out. Okay, so let's talk about the particle emitters in LeadWorks. And my plan, and think in Ultra, to create a particle emitter, you would go up here, and there would just be like an object here, particle emitter. And then when you select it, there would be another tab here for particle properties. And this would just have all your particle properties. And you can adjust them to make... I can show you in LEDWorks, actually. Yeah. And you just adjust it to control all the different particle properties. And if you want to duplicate something, then you save it as a prefab, and then you have your particle emitter prefab. People keep saying particle emitter, or particle editor. I want a particle editor. Well, that is your particle editor. I think what they're saying is they want a separate window that opens like this, and they want to have everything here. And then you've just got like your particle system in the center. And then I guess you would save it as like some kind of particle file. Let's see. I'll show you how this works in LEDWorks. Particle, okay, you have to turn on real-time rendering. Single viewport. Okay. Emitter. Okay, emitter properties. Particles, okay. There's only 50 here. Let's make that 250. Okay, that's a lot more. Velocity, let's increase the velocity. Let's make it faster. Okay. The shape, it appears in a box. Let's make it start in a sphere. Okay, I like that. Okay, I want a lot more particles, so let's make it 2500. Okay, cool. Start color. Let's change the start color to, let's turn this into like a fire type thing. And the end color, let's make that blue, like a gas burner. Whoa. I don't think I like that, so let's make it yellow. Let's make this more red. So the paradigm in LEDWorks is a particle emitter is an object in the world, and it's an object with properties like this that you can edit. It's not a predefined like particle file, and I'm not sure we could do that. Like, okay, so if you want to duplicate this and you want to have like, let's say I really like this for some reason. Actually, I'll show you an easy way to make it look a lot better. The scale. Okay, I forget how to do this actually. I'm gonna add some control points in here. That's the opposite of what I want. What I want is for it to start off big, and yeah, that's what I want. Okay, there's my fire. Let's say that I really like this fire and I want to reuse it. Then I would go here, I would save as a prefab, and I would save this as a prefab file, and then now I can reuse that in the scene. I can drag it into the scene if I want another fire. When people are saying particle editor, that is your particle editor. But when they say that, I think they want like a separate window here, and then you adjust all those settings, and maybe you save as a particle file, and that's like a JSON with all those properties. And then so when you're editing your, I guess when you're editing your particle editor, you would have like a file definition that you select. Like it would be like a folder selector here, and you click on that and it specifies the JSON file, and then if you want to change that, you go back and modify the JSON file in the particle editor. So I guess that would be more like, I guess it would be treating particle properties like a material file, basically. Is that what people are saying they want?
I'm not sure. It's really uncommon. I worked with multiple engines, and near in every engine it's just a component like you showed in the right bar.
Yeah. Let's say what Plisa is typing. That's because, I mean, this is something I hear all the time. I heard it with LeadWorks. Like the one in LeadWorks? Okay. Well, yeah, with LeadWorks, a lot of people were saying like they wanted like a separate window or something, and I never completely understood that. But we can continue to. We'll have a more in-depth discussion.
I think the particle emitter in the end is an object, and you should treat it as an object. So yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but we'll see. Yeah, so I mean, the plan is, what I'm thinking is basically have it just like LeadWorks, and then with the addition of, by default, particles will have collision with the level, which we had that option in LeadWorks, but I think it'll just run a lot faster in Ultra. So that's the plan.
That would be really nice. And I know that Reap is asking for decals all the time.
Well, I mean, those are... I'm not too worried. I'm not very worried about those because it's just a visual effect, and it doesn't have any interaction with the rest of the engine, so I'm okay doing that like towards the end because I'm not very concerned about it. Okay. Thank you for the feedback, Plisa. All right. Before I get back to work, any other questions or anything?
Actually, yes, but it's not a big question. It's just how many entities you think you can have in one scene?
65,000, because currently there is it's using an unsigned integer,
Okay.
unsigned 16-bit integer for the entity ID. So,
could you maybe make an label in the status bar that you can see how much entities you have in the scene?
Yeah, I think that would.
It's just simple because you could just take the count or something, but I'm not sure if then the parent entities or the child entities.
It's not exactly 65,000 because some objects take up more space than others. Some like cameras, for example, take up like multiple slots. But in my experience, like I've never seen anybody come close to that. That does not include the vegetation system. With the vegetation system, you can have millions. But for like actual entities, like I think you'll actually like run out of memory before you like. Yeah, I mean the zone from LeadWorks I think that had about 2,000 individual objects in it. So
Yep. Would be cool to know how many entities you have in the scene at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
Also,
and that should not be
the view distance, but I think we talked about it, right? And in Discord that when the GPU culling is coming, then you also will add the view range for different models.
Oh yeah, that'll be easy to build in to that, and that can be done. I think Let's see. Let me think for a second. That can either be done on. I guess that would probably be best to be done on a per model basis rather than a per entity basis. Maybe. I don't
Hmm.
know. No, actually, I can do it. I can do it on a per entity basis.
Because I think if you make a normal game with a simple level, then you won't have the problem. But if you make an open world level, then it might be get more important to set some objects to be not rendered
Yeah, especially if we have a
earlier.
very high view range. Um, yeah, I think that should be doable, and it'll be with the culling on the GPU. It'll be very easy to handle that.
Cool.
Yeah. So big victory this week, man. Just getting the view model
Uh,
up was so fantastic.
the cursor is
Um,
an end.
yeah, yeah, and it looks good. I've looked at it like from like first person view, like in the model editor, and it looks really nice. So I think we can start making progress again. Um,
Also, we can start to making some other props and all the stuff. I think I have to talk with Marcel that we can and with Reed that we can see what we can get from Sketchfab and what we need to do for ourselves, because I think if we do everything for ourselves, it will be take much longer than just take the models we can get for free and make some special models we can't find for ourselves.
yeah, I think it just comes down to consistency. Like if they're consistent, if we have a consistent visual style with that, then I have absolutely zero problems with that approach. Um, Another thing, like during the development process, while we were stuck on this problem with the view models, I kind of just told everybody to like pause all other development, and I didn't want to continue on anything else until we had this problem solved. And you know, if this was like if we had a budget and we were burning through cash developing this, then that would be a very bad choice. But in this situation, I felt like I just wanted to completely focus on this problem. So I'm not sure. Do you think that that was a good decision, or do you think like that it would have been better for Reap and Marcel to keep working on other stuff?
I think the decision was okay because basically everything is affected from the view model. So that's your thing you see all the time in your game. So this should be the earliest thing which is done. And
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like if we can't get the view model done, then the project is not. If we couldn't get that, then the project would be canceled because we would have to rethink everything. We would have to we need a game where we don't have hands on the screen if we can't do this. But it fortunately it worked out, and I'm very happy with the quality.
I mean, also as you said, we are not burning money. So
Yeah. Anyways,
if we would burn money for this, I think the company would already out of money.
you know, I think mm, it's pretty typical that things turn out to be harder than you think they will be.
Yeah, the second hard thing what we will face is the enemies
I
and
don't.
all the animations. So we should use a monster from Mixamo or something and the animations from there. If we can get this to work, I think I got already some stuff working in my game from there. So
Okay, so we do have like if everything else fails, we do have the Unwrap 3D pipeline, which is very reliable. Um,
and if we have then the enemies in the game, I think that the rest is just cosmetic stuff.
Okay,
The logic behind would be not that hard, I think.
Okay, so this model is pretty decent. I wish they didn't have all this stupid post processing. Okay, yeah, it looks a lot better without that. But you are correct that it might be difficult to find like something with a full set of animations. So let's go to Mixamo.
Yeah. Also, Mixamo can rig your own model, but I never done this before, and I'm not sure how complicated it is. So you can basically upload a model, and he is rigging it for you, or implement animations for it. But they have cool monsters, I think.
Okay, and we have to assume. Okay, we have to assume that something will probably go wrong in that process. Okay, so if we're doing SCP, then we should use an SCP monster. But initially we're not doing SCP. We're doing something like SCP that's not SCP. So we have more freedom. That means we have more freedom to use whatever we can find. So what kind of monster are we looking for here?
I think can you try to write SCP? Maybe they have something in. Well.
What kind of stuff did you find on here?
The second one, for example, and the zombies. But yeah, the second one is more like a fantasy thingy.
It would be okay if this looks like he looks like some kind of experimental mutant. He's got a ID number on him. He's number 8.
The third in the second last looks good.
This one?
No, down.
Oh, second last row. Okay. Oh, that looks cool. I think that is an SCP character. It looks a lot like it. Man, he's got some dental issues. Yeah, that could be okay.
The good thing is that you have any animation for it.
Yeah, so you have a full set of animations. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the next challenge is going to be identifying what creatures we actually want to use. Even if they don't have all the animations we need, we can get those. It's not that hard. If it's already rigged, I do know people who can do that, even if it's beyond our capabilities. So yeah, I think you're right. Next step is identify what monsters. Oh, he looks cool.
Yes. Can you check how many animations he has? Because there's an animation selector in the top.
Usually it's just one for this guy. But at least it means they're rigged.
But as I said, there is a way you can upload a character to Mixamo, and then it's converted into a model you can use for the animations from there.
Well, we can try it, but like I don't really expect that process. Have you gone through that process before?
No, because I was using direct characters from there. Problem is that on Sketchfab and also on TurboSquid you get only limited animated models, and if you want to have a good animated model, you need to pay like $500 or something.
Yeah.
You see this? This is the guy from Mixamo.
This same character?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be the next challenge, but I'm pretty sure we can find something suitable. Whoa, 155. I do think that this is easier than dealing with... I think the view model issue was more difficult than this.
Yeah.
We'll find something.
What I try to say is basically everything else is just static objects where you can easily create for yourself. Like guns or something are not hard to make, but they have guns.
Yeah, the rest of the level is pretty simple. So I guess mutated terrain. Wow. Absolute worst case scenario is we can start using our mutant crawler guy from Leadworks and just replace him when the time is right.
Yeah, for testing, it would maybe, if you can import it easily, it would maybe the best solution, and then replace it as one of the last steps.
Yeah, it'll load in Ultra. I loaded it yesterday. It loads perfectly. Everything carries over, so yeah, so finding some goods, and that's again like we have some flexibility on the concept, and then but I think we're just going to let whatever models we can find are going to determine like what the theme is. Could be zombies, could be alien creatures. Okay. All right, so if that's it, if that's all the questions, then we'll wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So 0.9.6 will be out in a couple of weeks, and the big thing that does is that has the foliage system, which allows you to do outdoor landscapes with dense forests and lots of plants and trees and rocks and grass and things. That's going to be very cool.
Yeah, also I'm really happy about the SRBG at the moment. I think I find the right colors for my vegetation.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Cool. Oh yeah, one more thing, guys. If you have not added a Steam review yet, and you are happy with the direction that the engine is going, then I totally would appreciate your reviews on Steam, because those really help. And it really does make a big difference. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a good week, and I will see you on the forum.
See you, Josh. Have a nice day.